We're gonna go. Okay, welcome. I'm going to trust Katie Elliott to tell me if you can't see my screen or anything at any point to just come off mic and nudge me, because I know that you're polite enough to remind me if you can't see what's happening on the screen. Welcome to everybody. If you are new here, my name is Lucy Werner, and we are here today to talk about how to build a personal brand with Adobe Express. If you are wondering what we're going to talk through, it's basically everything I've kind of learned from my own personal brand journey, but slightly under that kind of branding lens. And I'm going to show you the ways that I actually use Adobe Express. I am a global ambassador for them, but I do genuinely use the tool. So I'm not going to be here just hyping something I don't genuinely use. And at the end, you're going to see all the ways that I use it as well. I just want to start with this quote, which is: a beautiful brand is amazing, but a meaningful one is better. And we often think that a personal brand is what we look like. It's our branding visuals. And if there's one thing I can take, well, I want you to take away, is that branding isn't just about making something look pretty. It's really a means of identifying and manifesting your business goals. So in the US, there was a study that showed that I think 74% of Americans are more likely to trust somebody with an established personal brand. And I can see that from my own Substack. Like, a lot of the people who are paid subscribers of my Substack are people who already knew me versus the people who are still taking their time to get to know me. And I like to always give this example. So if those of you are new here, some of you will not know that this is the co-founder of my children. And he is French, dyslexic, he's a color enthusiast, he's a branding geek, and he's fun. These are his values, right? This is what he stands for. But if we take his clothes away, he's still got that same personal brand. He's still all of those things, right? So I just want you to think about the brand visuals give you that confidence. They make you feel a bit more comfortable about stepping out there. But really, it's about having that strong awareness of who we are and what it is that we're about and where we're going to excel. And that's what I want to tackle in the next hour. So, oops, hello, we just skipped forward. Who am I? Who am I? Really been questioning that in the last few weeks, I can tell you. Look, ultimately, I always joke that I'm a nobody that wants to help you become somebody. I'm not any more special than anybody else. I like to kind of pitch myself as being slightly above average. What I am really good at is being relentlessly consistent in loving what I'm good at, my work, and trying to have fun with it. And I think that's what it is that connects and bring people to me. And as I mentioned, part of why I'm here today is because I'm an Adobe Global Express ambassador. And that happened because I was raising my personal brand. So I was one of the first small business owners, I think, sharing tips and advice back when I had my PR and branding agency. And I remember probably about 5 years ago, a marketing person from Adobe UK following me and me thinking, oh, that's interesting. And then kind of years went by and I got invited to be on the beta program to test being an ambassador in the UK. And now I'm part of the European and the global team. So for me, I also have written business books on PR and branding. I've got a new business book coming out in November, which is the 6 Minute Smarts, which is a carve up of my first book, Hype Yourself, that my publishers are doing, because they're doing a 10 series. And I'm now a student in intermediate French. I'm a mum, I'm a top 50 global Substack writer, an online educator, and occasionally a global keynote speaker when I get some time away from this life into my other alter ego life. I will send links to the books when I send the recording round afterwards, so don't feel free, you don't have to Google anything while you're here now. So for the next 55 minutes, also, I'm going to try and leave some space for Q&A at the end. We're going to talk through the 3 steps of building a personal brand and how I use Adobe Express, the tool, to do this. But really, we're going to sort of look at positioning, where we're going to go today and where we need to be going. We're going to be looking at building, so the visual assets and materials that I think you need before you start taking yourself out there. And obviously, my favorite part, which is promotion, because I am always focused on personal branding, more on that PR twist and how we get ourselves out there. Because with everything, there's so many ways we can do this. There's SEO, there's online advertising, there's your content strategy. And in my newsletter, I do try and send you a weekly idea of how it is that we try and do that. So without further ado, let's just kick off with positioning, look at where we are today and where we need to be going. Just as a quick note, I forgot to give this earlier, because it is my birthday today. If you're having a lovely, lovely time, not my birthday, the Substack birthday, if you're having a lovely time, feel free to take a photo of the screen and tag me in it. It's Lucy Werner PR. And at the end, if you stick around, I'm going to try and actually remember to be a good PR girl and take a photo of me actually teaching, because I always forget to do that. And then afterwards, I have to tell myself off. Okay, I'm going to carry on. So positioning comes from the confidence in your abilities, having a strong self-awareness of who you are and where you excel. So we noticed earlier, we can often think that the personal brand is about what we look like and our branding visuals. And I just want you to think about what it is that you're good at, what it is that you stand for, and how we can do it out there. Now, I know, because I have polled hundreds of you multiple times, these are the biggest challenges on the screen here of what stops us from getting ourselves out there and from hyping ourselves. So it's the confidence, time and time again comes up. So if you're feeling any of these things on the screen, imposter syndrome, anxiety, judgment, fear of failure, nerves, embarrassment, not sure what's important, please realize that you are absolutely not alone. It's completely normal. The only reason that I don't feel like that is because I've done it a million times. I'm going to liken it to, I've actually just had to start driving in France in a manual, and the hill starts in a manual, having driven an automatic for the last 10 years, are really quite nerve-wracking, especially when you live in the hills. But the more you do it, the easier it gets, right? And that is the same for raising your profile and your personal brand. So I'm going to get you quickly interacting in the chat. It also gives me an opportunity to slurp my cup of tea and see what's happening so far. But rather than you just saying, this is where my name is and this is where it comes from, we're going to do a kick exercise. Hold on a minute. You might be asking me, Lucy, why is there a dinosaur with a broccoli head in your presentation? And I'm going to tell you, people, this is actually a Brachiosaurus. I created this with my 7-year-old in the holidays. We have a whole series of them. There might be a few more of the animal fruit generative AI images popping up. One of the visuals I want you to think about when you're doing your presentations, when you're creating your social media assets, is using generative AI. Adobe actually makes sure that they aren't using it on artist work. It's all on Adobe stock. And if you create a generative AI image with Adobe, it is royalty free. You can use it and it's got a tag on it, so people will know it's made in AI. So you're all safe to use it, because I know there can be a lot of information that's a bit sort of scary out there. Now, there's 2 ways that I make my AI images that I also use as a holiday activity. The first one is actually in Firefly itself, which I'm just going to quickly show you. Katie Elliott, can you nod to me? You can see that screen all okay? Yeah. So I like hovering over them because it gives you the prompts. So here, like a cute little penguin with several eggs around it. So if you're stuck like me sometimes on what a good design prompt is, these are here. But actually, in Adobe Express, the Firefly is actually powered in that. So you can just go to this quick action of generate with AI. So I'm just going to click on that here, and I'm going to go to generate image. And the prompt that I used, I've just actually cut and paste. It's going to just load up here, and I'm going to be able to put the prompt in, and then very seamlessly is going to generate the image for you. So like here we've got on the top left, describe what you'd like to see. So I actually have sometimes used this on my Substack and my newsletter as well if I can't find the image I like. So I've sometimes put in newspapers or people with a megaphone, all sorts of things. So I've got my prompt here, an image to show a cute dinosaur with a broccoli head questioning himself, as if he's asking, who am I, in a field of realistic psychedelic flowers? So I'm just going to click generate here. There's some stuff popping off in the chat, so I'm just gonna see here. So Firefly, I believe, is a free tool. I think there's just credits on it, so I think you can get a certain number for free, and then afterwards you have to do that. Okay. Shut the chat. So look, so these are my little AI images. You've got all these different ones here. That you can use. And if you have a style reference, you can actually upload it on here so that your generative images match the rest of the things that you are already creating. So if you've already got a few marketing assets that you've already created, You could just upload your style composition and add it in. You can also, on the generative AI, you can take bits of an object out, you can insert bits, all sorts of clever things that you can do. So even for like a non-designer like me, I find I can really have fun actually playing around with the design side of things. Anyway, back to where we were. Let me just make sure I've got my show notes in the background so I can be the good presenter. The exercise I wanted to do next is actually have a bit of a self-defining moment. So for a lot of us who have an online business, we are what Google says about us. So whilst we are all here together, you can either on your phone or on your desktop, either look at yourself in private mode. I like to look at DuckDuckGo, which is a search engine. You can just literally type duckduckgo.com. In fact, I'm going to pop that up here. I've already searched myself earlier and I've clicked onto images because I'm going to make a point about it in a minute. But take a second, go onto DuckDuckGo and then put into chat, if you're feeling brave, what are the top 3 things that are coming up when you're searching for yourself online? Is it Instagram? Is it LinkedIn? Is it your website? Is it a piece of press coverage? There's the DuckDuckGo link. I'm going to let Ray in from the waiting room. And Rosie, just on your question as well, unlike some of the other Adobe suite, you can just go to firefly.adobe.com and search on there. Okay, so Holly's coming up with her own website, then LinkedIn, then Instagram, which is great. Ellie's the same. She's got her website, then LinkedIn, then Creative Directory. Who else is going to be brave and share what's coming up when we search? Laura Chapman's also website, then LinkedIn, and then an old web page about the Women's Equality Party website. Kate Campbell's got LinkedIn first. Okay, that's great. For the people who've already done this, also, so you can have all, you can have images. So I'm interested to see what imagery is coming up for you. And news. If you're looking to see if you've been featured in any news articles, normally it will kind of, you can search on this news piece and it's going to come up on here. Christina Patterson has got on Amazon. It's great for all of you coming up on your website first. This is really good. That's showing your SEO is working really well for you. Okay, so I'm just going to come back here and I wanted to talk a little bit about what's coming up on mine when I click on the image page. Now, Google particularly, which is the search engine that most people are looking at you for, but other search engines as well, they love Twitter, they love YouTube, and they love podcasts. So historically, some of you might have had a MySpace. He also really loves MySpace as well. I know for a long time, Adrian had a MySpace image coming up when you were searching his name. I just want to say, like, of this screen of the things that are coming up for me, the top 8 imagery that's coming up are from podcasts, 4 are from tweets, 4 are from written interviews, 2 are from YouTube, 3 are on Pinterest, and 1 is from a workshop. The reason I'm saying this is because I've been featured in every, this is like the humble brag coming through. I've been featured in every UK national media outlet. But actually, when it comes to when you're being searched online, it doesn't necessarily link to what it is that people find about you. So when it comes to self-promotion and building our personal brand, I know for a lot of you, there is this dream to get loads of national newspaper coverage. And it is great, and it's great for kudos. But actually, when it comes to doing things that work hard for us, we can actually think about podcasts or doing some tweets or being on like YouTube podcasts as a way to increase our personal brand, because it actually can work so much harder for us. So obviously, I'm the PR girl. I want you to get in press coverage. It's great. It's really impressive. But what I don't want you to do is get so stressed out and worried about spending all of your time trying to do that when these things can actually work harder for you. And if you're feeling time poor or you're feeling knocked in your confidence or not knowing what to say, these are actually the easiest places to start on a podcast or putting something out on Twitter. So just a kind of little hack there of where we can be redirecting our energy. Jessica, who's just said, in images, it's not me until the 3rd line down. then I would say, think about if there is a way that you could, if you're, I mean, I know a lot of us don't want to be on Twitter for obvious reasons. If you are on Twitter, even if you just have any kind of profile, tweet a recent photograph of yourself, or have a think about when you're looking at like what's coming up top for me on imagery, it's actually written interviews that are coming up, or podcasts where they've used an image of me on the thumbnail. So maybe see if there's a written interview or a podcast that you could be part of as your next kind of PR efforts, so that that's what's coming up top. I like how Eva's like, it's me and then it's John. We definitely need to kick John off. Okay. Now I want to get you thinking about your values. Again, for me, these are so important when it comes to setting your guardrails. And it's, for me, it's an essential part of that building stage of your personal brand. So I've got a list of words here just for inspiration. Some of you who've been on my newsletter for a while might have already seen this as an exercise. But now in the chat, because I want to keep you working today, you will get to sit back here and relax as well. There's going to be some more demos coming up. But, you know, whilst you're eating your lunch, I'm going to keep you getting your PR and personal branding brain going. I want you to write down as many of those values that you think are relevant to you, and then maybe select 5 in the chat. And I will do that. I'm going to take a sip of tea and then I'm going to do that as well.
Lucy, can I just tell you that your head is in front of some of those words?
Oh, yeah, you can tell me that. How can I?
I was going to say that.
How do I tell you what? Does that do it?
Now the background's just in the way instead.
Do you know what? Let me take my, we'll do the stop share. Da, 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 da. And then she can do this. She's a technical wizard. No, that's still my head. Hold on. There we go. How's that?
Yes, good.
Still hear me? Still see me?
Yes.
We're rocking and rolling.
Hey.
I love all feedback. Right. Oh, the person who said, I have another person named the same in the same industry, that is a real bugger. Sorry, I wish I could give something more, because there was somebody else who said, Linda, who says she shares her name with a very famous person. So for me, I always say Lucy Werner and PR, because unbelievably, there are other Lucy Werners out there. If it is somebody in the same industry, that is really unfortunate. So I guess for you, it's even more important to work on the personal brand side of things and think about your keywords and where it is that you want to be known for. Maybe it's the type of audience you work with that could be a differentiator, or one of your personality traits. So for me, I'm just in the middle of typing my values, but I always have like fun as one of my key values. So that comes across in my colors, in the way that I present, hopefully. Although she has got a blazer on today, guys. Like, how serious am I? But I was like, I'm kind of tweed on top and then Breton stripe underneath. So I thought that was like a good prong glaze version of myself. It's also cold in here and I didn't want to be in a fleece. So yeah, I think the values piece is actually can be a really useful exercise for that, because it's what people connect with when they're thinking about you. So, you know, I'm going to be fun, Lucy, even though she's in the jacket, but you know, business fun. My values move around, but these are the ones that I try to keep. So I've got fun, family, creativity, educational, and honest, because I do try to show the highs and the lows as well. Katie Elliott has got humorous. In fact, Katie Elliott, because I love your Instagram, you have some really fun, humorous moments on that as well. I think that really comes through. I can really see your values being a really good match for you. You can
I feel like a proper fangirl. Can I just tell you saying that? Thank you, thank you, thank you. I'm going to shut up now.
No, you can. It's just also, I think you must have come in first. You're top of my screen. So I can see everybody else here in the chat. I'm not just giving a love-in just to Katie today. Anna Rose said, community, integrity, growth, and peace. I feel calm just reading them already, Anna. Kirsty saying creativity, nurturing, ethical, quality, integrity. Bhavini saying creative, approachable, humble, positive, ethical. Yeah, we've got some great ones here. You're allowed to have 6. I can't remember who said that. So 6 has gone up already. So the reason I love this values game is it's a really good way to set your guardrails. So before you do a podcast, before you answer that journalist, before you say yes to that panel event, do a quick due diligence check. Do those people that you're sat with match your values, or do they completely contradict it? And unless you're literally there to be pitted against somebody who's the complete opposite of you, in which case you might want to be that combative person, 9 times out of 10, I'm imagining we don't want to be in that scenario. So the values piece for me is our guardrails. When I was in big PR, creative, ad land, agency land, and we worked with any supplier, or before we worked with any clients, there was literally weeks of like due diligence and paperwork that we had to go through. For us as small business owners, a really quick way of doing this is just doing that value check and doing a quick search to make sure the things that they're talking about, the politics that they might be mentioning, their viewpoints on the world are aligned with ours, because we don't want to accidentally align our personal brand with somebody that further down the line it doesn't click with for us. It's just a really easy check. If you are struggling on this exercise, ask one of your friends, and you can be honest about it. You don't have to worry about faking it, and keep it simple. If you have 6, that's totally fine. If you have 20, maybe try and group them and then sort of circle them into the ones that fit, and then pick one. Okay, continuing on. So what is something that I love to do paired with something that others need and are willing to spend money on? So there's a personal branding blog I'm going to send round with this recording today, which is some additional homework or light reading to go with this workshop. But really, your business goals are your brand's priority, because they shape your day-to-day decision making. They're going to help you measure your success, what is working, what is not working, what is memorable about you, and the experience of being who you are, what you're good at. And that's what's going to keep you at the top of mind for others. So take inventory of all of these aspects and bring these results to life in your online brand. Now, the way that I do this, again, if you've been on my paid newsletter, you might have seen this as an exercise. If not, I'm going to include this slide as a takeaway for you afterwards. Whenever I work with anybody, I get them to group their thinking into these 3 buckets: business expertise, human interest, and passion points. And the more you can get really in the human interest and the passion point ideas, the more you're going to be able to stand out. Now, for those of you on the, oh no, but I've just started this business, or blah, 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 I don't have business expertise, you 100% do. Whatever it is that you've been doing your whole life, there are going to be lessons that you've learned from that can apply to what it is that you're doing now. Or you might be an absolute uber geek like me and has only done the same career for 23 years. The human interest, that for me is like the triumph over adversity stories. Maybe you've had life-changing events. Maybe you've been, there's something, a reason that, you needed to set up your business. For a lot of us, motherhood, illnesses, menopause, misogynistic workplaces, all these kind of things that have impacted us to set up the businesses that we're doing. These are all relevant stories and are going to help us to connect to our audience. And then passion points. So for me, and if you've been with me a long time, you'll know I talk about showing a bit of ankle. It's that bit of personality. It's not about showing everything about ourselves. You can keep your private life. You don't need to show us the inside of your sock drawer. It is just giving us a bit of that personality. What do you like watching on Netflix? What radio shows do you listen to? What's your favorite podcast? What did you overhear somebody saying in your local neighborhood the other day that was hilarious? These are all little anecdotes that you can use as part of your personal brand that helps us to get a connection with you. One of my favorite ways to do this, actually, if you do want to get traditional press, is to share articles that you've read and put your own viewpoint on it. It's a great way to just show that you're in that space, that you have an opinion, that you're a thought leader. And I'd encourage all of you, rather than sharing quotes of maybe your favorite authors or your favorite podcasters, think about the things that you say, the advice you give all the time, and take ownership of your own quotes. So for me, I say show a bit of ankle. I talk about beauty in the boring. I talk about putting yourself where you don't belong. And obviously the most obvious one, hyping yourself. So think about how you can kind of take ownership of something that you feel really strongly about under one of these 3 pillars. Okay, now we're just going to move into building. I'm going to have a quick sip of the tea. Okay, so just to recap on positioning, we did a quick search of ourselves. We looked at where we're at, maybe got an idea of where we want to change that and what we want to see coming up in the future. We set some guardrails for ourselves with our values. We did a value chest. And then we are thinking about the business expertise, human interest, or passion points, so topics moving forwards. And this can be an evolving list. You know, you might be on a dog walk and think that was a really great idea, or in the shower. I have like an open page in my notebook and I just add to it all the time. Now that was like the malfunction, wasn't it? It was like the VHS tape got chewed up. We're going to get into the building section. So now we've understood a little bit about our personal brand position. We want to build something to show for it. And we're going to look at how we can take our personal brand out there. And this is where the brand visuals can come in for your brand identity, the fonts, colors, imagery, website. You know, it's the building blocks of what we do on the internet, but also face to face. Now, for some of you, you've already got a killer brand and this isn't going to be relevant. So you can just sit along and nod at this point. For others of you, if you're still kind of refining it and worried about it, hopefully this next section is going to give you some good tips on how to visually bring it to life. So I want to kick off with this quote, which is: a killer font will always be better than a mediocre logo. So if you're setting up a Substack for the first time, you're building your brand for the first time, you can get really stressed if you can't afford a proper designer about what that brand is going to look like and what that logo is going to look like. And I just want to show you, here's some examples here where it's just been a logo. You don't need to have a logo to be successful. In fact, for the branding sort of people, I know you'll probably nod along with me. It's usually like the last bit of the brand that you actually put together. I always think it is worth having the budget to invest in a designer, but when we are starting out, there are a few things that we can look at doing to just take that pain point away as we are building, and then we can refine it later. So on the font side of things, if you've got a publication name, great. If you haven't, just name it after yourself, for example. You can change it later. I registered the Wern Limited as my business name just because I wanted to have something to put on Companies House. It ended up sticking because it was actually really good SEO and the Wern logo looked really nice, but we kind of cut there off it and it was just Wern as a logo because that's what looked nice. But I wasn't sort of too stressed about the name. That wasn't really the important part. So if these are anything that's stopping you from getting your work out there, I just want to remove that for you as a blocker now. So fonts. What you need a primary font, you need a secondary font, and you need a body copy. So something that's easy to read. You don't want anything too jazzy here. Quite often I see sometimes people picking a body copy that's really quirky and fun, and then you can't read it, particularly on slides. So maybe like this secondary font, for example, if that's really shrunk down and it's your main sort of marketing copy, it's really hard work for people to read. So think about sort of the accessibility, people who maybe have like attention issues when it comes to reading. You want it to be super clear and spacious and not too creative. And then you might be like, hold on a minute, how do I choose a color palette? So I'm not the branding expert. That is my husband. We did write a book on branding together. So I was the brain. No, I wasn't. I was the brawn on that and he was the brain. And I've co-presented with him enough times to tell you that he will say, pick a primary color, a contrast color, and a neutral to complement it. But for a non-designer like me, I'm like, yeah, but what does that even mean? What does that look like in practice? So I just wanted to show you, for those of you who don't have any sort of branding in place at all, and maybe you need it for your Substack or your social media assets, your marketing materials, just a quick way around this. So this is sort of the Adobe Express page as you arrive on it. So I'm just gonna, oh, hello, that's me earlier. Come over here. And you can see here, there's all of these templates. So I'm just gonna have a look at the templates and just see if there's anything that's particularly inspiring and see what's coming up. I think I've got a few things open. So this is actually one that I liked earlier, right? So you can click through all these popular templates or different layouts. Once you have your branding in place, you can remix all of these to fit your own branding. But I particularly, because I'm a bright color kind of girl, like this one. So I'm going to start a new file from here. So I've selected this image because I think, yeah, this image is kind of cool. I like the colors. I feel like that feels good. It feels a bit of me. I'm fun and creative. I'm going to see if I can actually just use this image as a reference to create my own brand. So this is just going to nice and slowly come up on the screen. Just going to take a slurp of tea while that comes. Everybody's still with me. Can you still see me now that my head's not in front of the slides? Am I just to the side? Yeah. Great. Thank you. Okay. Here we are coming on in this nice jazzy green background. I'm going to close this one. Here we go. So you can see here we've got this light green, which is on the background color. So if I select that background color, hold on. I've already played with this earlier. So I already turned this as a demo into a brand earlier, but let's say from scratch, I wanted to turn this into a brand. So I'm going to click here to create my brand. And we're going to say demo personal brand. And I'm creating my brand from scratch. So you can see here, this is my Hyperself one, and I have the demo one here from earlier. So right now, this folder is empty because it's my demo personal brand. You could pop in your logo, your colors, your fonts, any assets, any templates. So the templates I was showing you before, you can just add them all in here. But if I look at this background color, this is going to give me, we're going to go to the demo. Normally it would give me what the hex code is on it. So we're going to color pick this green and we're like, here's my color code here. So I'm going to click that hex code. I'm just going to copy it, go into colors. I'm going to add it in as a color. So I'm going to go to color swatch, add that in, boof, color one, done. Now I'm going to take the second one. So I'm going to take my color picker again. This is the other color. Love it. Get my code. Done. Go back to my brand. Literally as easy as that. I can add the colors in. And now I've got the two colors for my brand sat in there. Now I really like this one. It's nice and fun. So I'm going to click on that just to see what's coming up. And it's saying it's Poppins and bold. So I'm like, okay, great. So I'm going to go back to my brand. Add in font. Add my font in here. Poppins bold. And that's it. Now we go to the overview. And just from selecting one template I liked, I've now got my color palette and my font. And I can now apply that to any of the templates that I see on here. So when I go back, there's loads of professional designed ones. There's loads of LinkedIn banners, Facebook banners, Twitter banners, seasonal templates, flyers, posters. You can even like rejig these logos to remix it, the Instagram carousels, and you can literally just apply your brand onto it. So for example, we could just take this one and be like, yeah, I really like that one as a layout. And then you can just start it as a new file, apply your brand onto that, and you're ready to go. I'm not going to fully do that now because we've only got 25 minutes left and I still want to natter with you all lots more. But it is so, so easy to use. The most important thing when it comes to building your brand is thinking about trusting yourself, because if you love it, if you feel like good about those colors, if you feel good about the font, if you feel good about the imagery, if you feel good about the silly video that you've made on Instagram Reels that makes you chuckle, it's going to make your audience have a good time with you as well. And that's the most important thing. And when it comes to PR and self-promotion, the biggest challenge I see for people is it feels icky, is it feels hard. And so I just want to remind you all, like, it is got to feel good for you. So for me, you don't need the visuals, but it's a bit like the clothing and the gift we had earlier with Adrian without his clothes on. He's still got the same values. He's still got the same meaning. He probably would feel slightly more naked without them all walking down the street. So once we have those visuals on, once we maybe have a few templates in place, it makes us feel a bit more confident about getting down the road. So other things just to think about, particularly if you are in the newsletter train, is the images that you're selecting. So I do quite often actually take my images from Adobe Express. They have Adobe stock photos there, so you can use them all for yourself. Illustrations. So if you can, work with a bespoke illustrator, because that's a great way to create marketing assets that fit with your brand. But again, you can find these on there and on your graphics and layout. So think about the way that you can be putting your assets together. So for me, like I sort of showed you a little bit inside my brand folder earlier. I think maybe did I close that one down?
Lucy, can I just
Yeah.
ask, sorry, is this on the free version or is this with a monthly membership?
So you can get access to some. So if you see here, these things with a crown on, that means that it's that's a paid for premium.
Right.
But the ones that don't, so like that one I remixed earlier, for example, you can access that one without having a subscription. So, and also you can trial it. There's the link that I'll send around afterwards. You can trial it for 30 days for free, and then you can have a play around of all of the assets in there. So you can kind of, make what you need and then keep it for later.
Okay, thank you.
In my brand folder, so this is my Hype Yourself folder. Anytime I'm creating anything, I have my logo there. I have all the hex codes for my colors. I've got my font. So I've had the same fonts for 10 years. Oh, I'm not clicked out of that. I also have like my social media templates where I've maybe had presentations made for me. So historically, I have worked with a designer who's created stuff in Photoshop or in Adobe Illustrator. Those can now be moved straight into Adobe Express, so I can edit it myself. So I have my own media kit that I now can just edit myself now that I've worked with a designer to create that for me. And even PDF. So historically, this is actually one of the gifts I was hoping to get out before today, and I haven't, but I will be getting it out to you. Actually, normally it comes out in February. So the fact that I'm working it in October is actually a godsend. Historically, I've had a VA to help me check all of the calendar dates for the year, for the key calendar moments. And then I would give it to Adrian and he would make this in Illustrator. But now I can actually take the old Illustrator file as a PDF and edit it myself in Express, because it's now got the ability to edit long form PDF. So if you do work with a designer to create all of your marketing assets, they can actually link to you in Express through Photoshop or Illustrator. So rather than you going, hey, can you update my menu from 2024 to 2025? It's something you can easily do yourself, which is a really, useful thing to do, and also saves you kind of bugging your designer about little tweaks that you now want to make because you've decided you're changing your strap line or whatever it is that you're doing. So for me, it's like a great way to be able to work with assets that maybe have been created by somebody else historically. So yeah, just to sort of say that obviously with a lot of this stuff, I'm trying to kind of cater for people who maybe are in bigger agencies and have worked with designers, and some of you who are just starting out and you might be somewhere from scratch. So I'm trying to give some branding and design ideas and personal branding for all of you. And hopefully there's something that you can take from that. But yeah, the editing PDF function for me is like chef's kiss now, because before it was all in one block. So if you deleted one line, the whole thing would shunt around, whereas now it's in multiple text blocks. So it's much easier. I would try and show you, but I'm worried it'll crash my computer because it's such a big file and I don't want to lose you all as I'm talking. Okay, so we've gone through our positioning, we've gone through our building, and now we're going to talk to my favorite bit, which is obviously on the promotion. So we've worked really hard to position our house, and now we're going to stick that for sale sign out front of that house and we're going to take it to market. So many of us can rush to take our brand out there before our brand's ready, and that can sometimes lead to confusing messaging and ill-fitting partnerships. Thinking back to that value slide earlier, we want to make sure that our brand partners, our media partnerships, anything we're doing is aligned. So even if you just take a little bit of time after the session today to really understand your values and where it is you want to be playing, it's going to help you. Just like in PR, I always tell you to have your bio and your headshot and your talking points in order, because it just saves you that trouble down the line. So I just wanted to, hold on, bring you back to the presentation. We're all still with me. And I'm going to show you some ways that I actually bring it to life now. So on social media, for me, the LinkedIn banner is the prime time PR real estate for your personal brand that I can guarantee most of you are not using. So you can have a quick call to action on here, your brand colors if you've got them. If you haven't, that is fine too. One of the examples that I really love from LinkedIn is actually a lady called Vanessa Below, and she's an artist. She's also a D&I expert. She's also a business coach, and she's a keynote speaker. And so she has a montage of her artwork, of her keynote speaking, of her kind of the work that she does as a sort of photo montage on that background. So it actually gives us a real idea of all of the things that she is just from that photo. I have a Twitter account still. I find it useful for press, and I do sort of direct people to their to my Substack from there. So I do make sure that I've got my kind of up-to-date assets just sat there as a billboard. So for all of you, you know, you don't have to be on every single platform. It's not sustainable, particularly if you're a solopreneur. But think about like what platform you're excited about. What are the ones that you're checking when you're in the queue at the supermarket? You know, what are the ones that your audience are into? And if you're sort of then showing up in the ones that feel good to you, it's going to be easier to publish consistently. And the ones that I'm not proactive on, I still have an account there and I just literally have it as a billboard. So again, that's why when we're thinking about our brand, just sort of billboarding our presence across and having that synergy. So, you know, if anybody sort of sees this color palette and this font now, they're hopefully going to think of me. And sometimes I have seen like people sending me photos where it's like that color palette or that font's being used. And they're like, hey, someone's quite similar. And I sort of just take it as flattery now. And this is actually the theme of this week's PR recipe in the newsletter. So thinking back to the thought topics that we talked about right at the beginning when we're building, I love doing a quick collage for two reasons. First of all, the story pivots on my career actually remind me of press stories and press angles that I can use when it comes to pitching myself. It also helps me to just see how far I've come and what separates me from my peers. So back to that slide right at the beginning where we talked about things that were blocking us, and maybe it was a confidence boost or not knowing what to say. Doing this as a creative exercise rather than sat there with like your pen and paper being like, okay, what's my pitch today for Metro for the opinion column? Take some time away and actually, this for me is more of like a business expertise collage, but you could do one for your human interest, and maybe there's some key pivotal moments in your life. Maybe there's some key moments when it comes to your passion points. Again, so I really like the kind of the quick actions in Express. So when we get there from the beginning, just on the homepage, there's sort of lots of quick things that you can do. And on the quick actions, you can use the collage maker, and you can actually just quickly upload all of your photos into that, and then it makes something pretty like this, which you can then resize for your other channels. So that was actually in my newsletter and on my Instagram as a post this week. So the presentation images, so obviously I gave a little demo earlier of doing AI imagery, because I like to show that I'm sort of having fun and bring my values of like family, creativity, education through. But actually, I think, again, for the newsletter writers, we're often not thinking about the types of imagery we're using in our presentations and on our social media. So Express for me is a good one because I can save the photos I like in my favorites and then come back to them later. Also, you can actually search by that photography style. So you can, if there's a particular photographer that you like or a style that you like, there's a code there and you can actually search for more of the imagery. That tends to be more of a paid for feature. But you can also do things, so like here, for example, this values image. I can change the background of that to be my brand colors if I want it to be on my newsletter, all of these sorts of things, just so I've got that synergy coming through. The Substackers amongst us, obviously, most of you have found me through Substack today. A lot of you are on Substack as well. I also try and visually bucket my newsletter. And what I mean by that is for each of the sort of sections, for me, it's very clear. For you, this might be really like weird and be like, I've never noticed this before. But if I'm doing a personal essay, I tend to go for this more natural photography that's more sort of me in France, like you're seeing me more in the natural environment. If it's a class announcement or anything more learning based, you'll typically, you'll typically see it as a graphic. And then my PR recipes tend to be more in the brand colors, but kind of halfway between the two. So halfway between a graphic and halfway between the sort of natural photography. So obviously I've got my Hype Yourself sign and my brand colors on the wall. So if you have different strands in your Substack and you don't want to necessarily do a section or create a new newsletter, you could actually think about the type of imagery that you're using to separate it out. Bit like how in the newspaper you'd have like sports and news, and that photography style is going to be different as well. Content creation. So you can use on Adobe Express, there's actually a free content scheduler, so you don't have to be a paid subscriber to use this. And it's linked to all of the main social channels. So you've got Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, Pinterest, not Substack, but I guess it's not there as like a big one yet. So if you are somebody that likes to batch create in advance, it's a really useful thing to use. I also, when I have time, I do my video editing on there and I caption in my brand colors as well. So sometimes you'll see my videos that I'm using in the kind of blue and light green of my brand colors, because I like to try and have my captions there as well. And it's super easy to use. When you just go to the share button, you have the option to make it as a template. So I could make my collage as a template for you guys to remix, or I can just immediately share it to social, and then it pulls up the content scheduler from there, and you can just select which one it is that you want to go on. And then my brand, oh, hello, she got excited. My brand in the world. So things that I create. So yeah, the PDF that we talked about earlier that I'm in the middle of editing. I actually think about like what's behind me when I'm doing my like presentation. So for me, it's having like a bit of branded paint on the wall. The sign was actually a gift. It's not obligatory for you to get a sign to match your business. But maybe there's something like a picture or something that resonates with you and your brand that you can have behind you. When I was briefing the design team for my books, I was giving them my brand colors and my brand font. So I was quite lucky with Hype Yourself and Brand Yourself that they used my font and my type. The last one, I had nothing to do with that design, but I was grateful that they picked the green of my brand to like go with that. But everything that I make, everything that I create, I try and have the same colors coming through. One thing I would say is better to try and stick to 2 to 3 colors. It's really hard for me to wrangle 5 different colors. Even Adrienne as a designer would say that to you. So I do my best to do it, but it's actually a lot easier the less colors that you have to make it stand out for you. And even with my external collateral. So, oh gosh, I'm getting so excited, it's all clicking through. So when, for example, I taught for Domestika, which is the top photo up here, they asked me, did I have an idea of how I wanted my learning setup to look like? So I actually bought a lot of these props. So the phone, one of the megaphones was mine. This little blue item on the desk, that's a banana snow globe. These were all like of my own objects, the props that I took to Madrid for the filming. So it felt like it was my brand. But even when I'm submitting photos for press, or I'm going to an event, I'll quite often try and be in like my brand colors. So like in the red or the blue, or here's red and blue. Always got a book in tow. So I'm always trying to sort of show up in brand a little bit. This one is actually, it's more kind of I guess, in the fun and the brand colors specifically. But I know for some of you, when we were doing the values piece, you actually felt a little bit more calm and peaceful than mine. And so your photography, or like the imagery that you're using, can actually represent that as well. And it's just such a simple way to bring your personal brand through. Okay, so I just want to think back to what was coming up when you Googled yourself earlier, and where could you be focusing more of your attention? So for me, I was actually really surprised, given that I've done so much national coverage, what was coming up on the images. So for me, I'm definitely thinking, okay, I need to be doing more podcasts and maybe more YouTube podcasts. LinkedIn was also scoring really highly for me. I think for a lot of you, LinkedIn was coming up #1 when you were searching yourself. So that might actually give you some kind of prompts to redirect some of your self-promotion activity when it comes to building your brand. And remember, it's not about putting yourself where you don't feel confident. It's about having a good time and us having a good time with you. And last but not least, here is another one of the generative AI images. This one's a strawberry shark from the animal fruit family that we talked about earlier. In our Dream Big, I quite often ask people to say, like, what's your dream piece of press coverage? And it can be really difficult for them to answer that. So I'm actually going to set you 3 questions, and you might not answer it today. It might be in the future. But for your Dream Big, for your personal brand, who do you want to call you? What do they say when they ring you? And what are you doing in the meantime to get there? And you might be like, what do you mean by that? And I guess what I'm trying to say is it you want to be getting a book deal? Is it you want to be a 6-figure writer on Substack and you're invited to a creativity stage to talk about your Substack because it's now so successful? Is it an actual major brand contacts you because you're a chef and they want to give you kitchen equipment to feature in your cooking videos? Are you a retreat host and you want to be taken over? I just saw the other day, like, Lamborghini did a women's only luxury retreat in the US. And I just loved that there was kind of this like women's wealth sports focus. So if you're a retreat, is there a luxury brand that you think, yeah, I'd be up for Lamborghini taking over my retreat for the week to do a luxury experience for their drivers, for example? If you're feeling brave, you can put who you want to call you in the chat. If you're not, that's fine too. You can just work on this as homework. For those of you who've hung out with me for a long time, I do set lots of prompts and lots of homework, because the way that you're going to push yourself out there, the way you're going to improve your personal brand and to become known is by taking action. So I always try to give you little steps for you to do that. And that was the end of our promotion section. So just to recap, we started off looking at our positioning, and we did a litmus test of where we are, what people are seeing about us in the world when they're looking at us online. We talked about how we could build a brand based on values and with meaning, and then how we might want to be dressing ourselves accordingly, not physically dressing ourselves, with our visual assets. And then I hopefully have given you lots of ideas of how you can be bringing your personal brand to life in your promotion. And the one sort of final takeaway I want to give to you is find the beauty in the boring. And what I mean by that isn't just repeating that that's a phrase that I use, but actually the hardest thing you can do is to be consistent and to repeat yourself. I have been talking about Hype Yourself, the book, for years. I have been talking about the importance of raising your profile and getting out there. And that message doesn't really change. I do find new examples and new fun ways of doing it, and I still love it. But the reason I think that I have got to where I've got to, and what I call my slightly above average position, is by being consistent. And you can feel like you're being boring. You can feel like you're repeating yourself. There's somebody who came here today and I said to her, oh, by the way, it's going to be that Adrienne naked gif again, because she saw me do that 2 years ago. But it's still a really great point. And if nothing else, you're going to remember today that your personal brand isn't just about wearing clothes from that gif. And as a final thought, I wanted to make sure I did a photo with all of you. Hold on, we're going to stop sharing for my Substack birthday, because I keep forgetting to actually do that. So if you don't want to be on my photo that I share on Instagram stories, feel free to turn your cameras off now. If you're happy to be in my photo, I'm just going to do that. Yeah, happy. Should we do a happy birthday wave? What should we do? Well, we're going to wave. Okay. Woo! We're going to video. Hold on, just going to video too. Yay! You're such a lovely bunch of people. Thank you so much for coming. We still have 5 minutes to go. Does anybody want to ask a question, pass on any notes, give any feedback? all nice things. I want ITV to call and invite me on Loose Women as a guest where I promote my book. Love it. That is a great one. I love to look. Now I want you to actually go into upload a photo of the Loose Women screen and then insert yourself as a photo on that and then print that off on your desk and just have it there.
I've actually got on my Notion, I've got a picture of the Loose Women panel, like from the set with all the cameras in the background.
Yes. Now we're going to put your face on it. You've got to put your face on it now. Stage 2. We're going to get serious. I love that for you. Kirsty, I've tried choosing a font before and then struggled to get something similar on platforms that do email funnels. Any advice? No, I don't. I'm so sorry. I wish I did. As anybody else can answer that. I just try to use fonts that I can use across different. For me, it's like, can I use it in Word? Can I use it in Google Docs? That's my main kind of issue. On email funnels, is that as in you're using email marketing software? I'm just wondering if you, I'm wondering can you upload it if you own the font? Don't know. I have a feeling you should be able to upload it if you own it, if you've bought it. Lizzie saying, I love the branding part of the Express app. Does it work on Adobe Mobile too? Yes, most of it does. I will say if you're going to caption a video, don't do that on the mobile app, do that on the actual desktop, because otherwise it can be a little bit slow. But I quite often, the iPad one is still kind of in beta mode, the iPad app. So actually the phone app is a lot better. I think I have no information, so I cannot verify if the iPad app is going to be out anytime soon, but I know that the phone app is in a much, much better place. And it syncs. So if you're doing it on your phone and you're like, actually, this is too fiddy, the text is too small, you can stop and then go onto your desktop later and it's still linked up. So it's not like you do it on one and then you lose it on the other. Can you use animations on it on GIFs? Yeah, you can create. So the GIF, Carla, if you were there right at the beginning, did you see the Adrienne dancing GIF? Yeah, so I made that in there. So I filmed a video on my phone and then you can actually, I'll show you really, really quickly if we come back here.
But like I've used Canva before where you can put all your assets and then it kind of lets you like select them and animate them. Is it kind of got all those similar features?
Yeah, all of those. So if you go to convert to GIF, you can upload your video clip or whatever it is that you've got. So you can like drag and drop it. So you put your video in, then you can just select which bit of it you want it to turn into a GIF for you.
Right, okay.
Is that what you meant?
Yeah, that. And then just like little like, say if you've got different assets and things, a bit like if you have used Canva, it's quite easy to just like select them and it kind of animates it for you.
Yeah, so if you're creating like an Instagram reel, for example, and your stickers are on there, you can just literally click and then choose the animation style that you want, either on the graphics or on the text or all of it, and you can do it all at the same time, or you can isolate them or however you want to do it.
Okay, thank you.
No worries. Any more? No. Okay. Thank you so much for coming. I think most of you are actually in my paid subscriber group, so it's really nice to see you. For those of you who are in the paid group, there's another session on Friday about working with brands. For those of you who aren't, don't worry, you're all going to receive the replay, so you can recap this, you can rewatch this. I'm going to try and put the links in there. I'm going to try and give everything else that's useful. And I've got house notes here, and the only other thing I've put is birthday. So I think I've already said that like 3 times. So, but I'm like, yeah, I've done it. I've made a year trying to make a business out of a newsletter. So thank you for being part of that journey with me, because without you, I wouldn't be here able to teach this today. So I don't take it for granted. I love you all. DM me, prod me, poke me if I'm not replying to DMs. I do try and get back to all of you, but sometimes 3 children, solo parenting, French life, crashing cars, all that sort of thing get in the way of me from remembering to do that. So, but don't ever feel like you're hassling me. You are all very important to me, and it's so great to like do this with you all. Thank you. Thank you, everybody.